Hi, good morning. Hey, if you're starting to join, just wave or comment, say hello, so I know who's there. Awesome. Hi, Michaela. I'm glad you're here. That refreshing drink that you posted last night looked amazing, by the way. Looks so good. Awesome. Awesome. Bob and Pat are here. Nice to see you. Virtually, that is. All right, a couple more people are connecting. It's beautiful today, right? It's kind of chilly, but it's absolutely beautiful. Totally feels like spring. It's gonna feel like summer soon. Okay, well, while a couple of people are joining, I wanted to start out and just apologize for bailing on you guys on Monday. My girls and I kind of spontaneously decided to leave the house and do something. Good morning, Linda. And it was good, but we had a couple of learning lessons too, out and about. 88 on Thursday, holy moly. That's my kind of weather, I won't lie, I love it. So sorry about bailing, and I'm glad you guys are here for the makeup class. I wanted to say a couple of things about kind of like potential on the horizon, because as the world is ever evolving and changing, hi Mom, hi Dad maybe, and you know, people are being asked to come back to work and things like that, there's a lot of uncertainty. There is also more change ahead. And as we get kind of presented with that, we have the choice really to choose how we're going to approach kind of our lives going forward. And I'm sure you guys have kind of contemplated the good things that have happened during this whole quarantine time and the not so good things. And I would just say, as you're moving forward over the next few weeks and kind of preparing for life ahead, to really take the time to consider what has been working really well for you and what you have enjoyed more of because of this time at home, and what you really don't need more of when life sort of starts to get back to normal. And I mean, like maybe work looks differently for you. Maybe this was a good opportunity to kind of change things. Maybe you are not going back to the yoga studio or making choices about a different one. That could be happening. Or maybe there are people that you're kind of happy you're not seeing all of the time, or maybe there's people you want to spend more time with. So take the opportunity, I'm thinking, when you're feeling the uncertainty of the change coming, to find the positive in it and look for the potential of how you can kind of recreate life to be even more in line with what is good for you. So that's kind of where my head is at right now as we look forward. I'll keep you guys posted on Soul Yoga, which is formerly Maitri Yoga. They're starting to send some emails. Nothing is solidified yet, but I'll keep you guys informed. And hopefully you'll get a newsletter too. So for today, let's open the hips and get a little movement going. Hi, Dad. And let's begin by standing. So, coming to the top of your mat, have your feet hip distance apart. Line your toes up with your heels and just bend the knees a little bit and feel your weight of your body kind of drop down into the feet. Okay. Perhaps you pick up the toes, spread them wide, sort of replant the feet, things like that. Shake out your hips just a little bit. Okay. And then we'll roll the shoulders up, down, and back, just bringing some awareness into the upper body. And then let's take the hands to the hips, and we're going to keep the legs fairly straight, so knees pretty straight, as you lift one heel. So you will feel the side of your pelvis or the side of the hip lift, and then drop the heel, and then lift the opposite heel. And now go back and forth. This requires a bit of mobility in your SI joints, in the back of the pelvis, so in the sacrum. So your heel may not come up as high as mine, or it may, but wherever it's at is fine. We're just getting a little bit more mobility when we lift the heels with straight legs. Okay, and then planting the feet again. Let's get broad through the chest. So feel your shoulder blades on your back, and we'll come into Samastitihi, even standing. So palms together in front of the heart. The chin is slightly tucked, so we're lengthening up through the back of the neck. And then we're feeling the breath. So become aware of your breath. Feel the inhalations. Feel the exhalations. And as we stand in quiet stillness, take a couple of moments to think about how quarantine has affected your life for the better. And also consider the things that you would like to let go of as life kind of returns to normal, if you will. And trust that we have the potential to create the lives that we desire and live in alignment with what is best for us. Kind of trust that as you deepen your breath. And then we'll exhale the hands down and inhale to spin the arms up. Gazing skyward, bend your knees as you roll the pelvis, so navel between the thighs, hands to the floor, and release the back of your neck. Shaking it yes, shaking it no, having the knees bent enough so that the pelvis is tipped over, and then we're going to straighten one leg at a time. And you're going to go back and forth, bending one knee and then straightening the other. And your hips may start to sway side to side. And as they do, you'll notice that your head and your eyes almost naturally will gaze past the straight leg side. So you start to shift back and forth. And this really loosens up the low back and the back of the pelvis. The hamstrings definitely are stretched here, but it's all connected. And then we're going to have the knees slightly bent, both knees, and grasp the elbows with the opposite palm and release the weight of the spine, or really the head, so that the spine becomes free in a forward fold. And deepen the breath.
feel the weight of your hips. Maybe you kind of shake them gently up and down when you bend the knees. And then we're going to take the hands to the hips, turning the pelvis under, so sitting bones under, as you inhale and come back up to stand. And roll back the shoulders. Stand tall in Tadasana, mountain pose. Nice posture, firm legs, and then inhale, draw the arms up. And exhale, forward fold, tucking the chin. Inhale, hands to the shins and look up. And then we're going to bend the knees and we'll step the left foot back, lowering onto that knee as you walk your hands up to the thigh, your right thigh, and you're in a nice lunge. Inhale and draw the top chest up. And exhale, straighten the right leg, lift the toes, hands down toward the floor or on your thigh, depending on how tight the hamstring is. And then we're going to stretch out through the sternum and exhale and forward fold the nose toward the knee. Inhale, look up, walk those hands back up as you bend your front knee and hinge the weight of the hips down and forward. Now you can keep the hands on the thigh, or inhale, reach the arms alongside the ears. And exhale, lower the hands to the thigh, straighten the leg, lift your toes. Inhale, lift your chest. Exhale, gentle forward fold. One more time. Inhale, come up, bend the front knee. Let your hips come down and forward. Either keep your hands pushing into the thigh, kind of lifting the abdomen, or reach the arms up. Lower belly comes in and up. And then we're going to exhale the hands down by the front foot. Tuck the back toes and step into downward dog. Now, if your hamstrings are tight, it's best to bend your knees and lift your tailbone nice and high. Now we're going to straighten one leg at a time. So you're going to go back and forth, walking your dog, dropping one heel as you lift the other, bending one knee and straightening the other. Doing your best to press evenly through your hands. Maybe the hips start to kind of sway side to side, a little bit more movement. And either stay here or come down onto the knees, sit back on the heels in child's pose, resting the forehead on the floor, and then we're going to sway the hips side to side. Now, if this doesn't work for your knees, then you're going to be in table instead and sway your hips side to side, and you can look back toward the outside edge of your hip, back and forth. Or you're in child's pose, leaning the hips from one side to the other so the head of the thigh bone keeps deepening back into the socket. Now walk those hands way out in front if you're in child's pose. Then we'll all meet in all fours, tuck your toes, lift the knees, stretch back into downward dog once again. And we're going to do a cross stretch. So bend your right knee and straighten your left leg and press firmly into your right hand and feel that engagement travel up to the shoulder and then over to your left sit bone and down to your left heel. And then switch. Drop your right heel, bend your left knee, and press firmly in your left hand, activating that arm, hollowing out the armpit. Energy crosses to the right sit bone and drops into the right heel. And then we'll even it out. Either both knees are bent or both legs are straight. And then we're going to look forward between the thumbs, and you're going to step your left foot up between the hands. Now lower onto the right knee. Walk your hands up the left thigh and come into that lunge. Spreading the collarbones. Drop the shoulder blades. Lift the chest. And now we're going to straighten the front leg, lift the toes, and then the hands can stay on the thigh as you just lean forward with the chest. Keeping it open, or the hands come to the floor and we're lowering the chin toward the shin. Inhale as you look up, and then hands to the thigh, bend your left knee, lower the hips, open the chest. Maybe the arms come alongside the ears. Keep the lower abdominal area coming in and up. So you don't overstretch that right hip flexor. Don't dump totally into the hips. And then hands to the thigh or the floor as you straighten your left leg, lift the toes. We're hinging at the hips. Coming forward with a straight spine, and finally rounding it with an exhalation. Inhale, look up and bend the left knee. Come back into that low lunge. And then hands down alongside the front foot. Tuck your back toes, step into downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana with bent knees or straight legs. So test it out. If you're not sure which one is working best for you, try both. And you're looking for a straight back. So if the knees are bent and you have a straight back, that's best. If you straighten your legs and your back rounds, you probably should go back to bent knee, straight back. Then we're going to bend both knees, look forward, step the feet up between the hands, bring the hands to the shins and look up and open the chest. You can bend the knees here if your hamstrings are tight as you kind of ragdoll over the legs. Push evenly through the feet and inhale. Come all the way up to stand. And exhale, press the arms down, standing nice and tall. Then we're going to stand on the left foot and bend your right knee and cross the ankle right over the top of your knee. Open your arms out for balance and just barely start to bend the front of your left ankle, and the knee and the inner groin deepens back as you come to sit down a bit, stretching into that right hip. Really working to take the breath to that whole area on the right side. Keep breathing, softening into the hip. You don't have to go deep here. Inhale, come up, stand tall, and place that right foot down. Shake out the left side a bit. Pick up the ankle, cross it past the knee, and begin to sit back like you're sitting into an invisible chair. Don't overdo it with the hips. They will talk to you, so really listen to the body, but really allow the breath to move with fluidity, especially to the areas that are holding tension, like the hips do. Inhale, come up, and stand nice and tall. Release the hands down. I'm going to turn my mat. We're going to stand in Tadasana or Samasthiti, and we're going to hop or walk the feet about your leg distance apart and come into Utthita Trikonasana. So the toes turn to the right, front heel lines up with the back arch, back toes in front of the heel. Inhale, lift the arms, and exhale, hinge out with your ribs. Now come back up. You can take your hands to the hips too. If you're looking at me right now, I want you to just observe this thigh bone descending and my hips moving as I hinge over the top of the thigh. Now watch this one. I'm gonna reach and my hips are stuck. They're stuck. It's gonna round here, and this is about as deep as I'm gonna be able to go because the hips aren't moving. So check that out for yourself. Are you allowing that thigh bone to drop and the other side to lift? Then you come into the pose, taking your right hand to the top of the leg, avoid your knee, left arm up. If your neck is stiff, I would say look down at your right toe. If your neck is okay, look up to the left thumb. And roll that top left hip bone back. And now stretch the ribs away from the hips. Inhale, come up. Exhale, you can lower the hands as you turn the toes to the left. Make sure the front heel lines up with the back arch and that the right toes are angled in front of the heel. Hands are on the hips and we're just moving the hips up and down. Yeah, creating mobility in the hip joint, in the sacrum, the SI joints, in the pelvis. And then when that thigh bone drops and this top right hip comes up and out, take the left hand down to the top of the leg, roll the right arm back. Find a good eye gaze, either down at the floor if the neck is stiff or toward the sky if the neck is not as stiff. This is so nice for also creating stability in the legs and in the hips to free up the spine. Visualize the sitting bones kissing the tailbone and then inhale to come up. Nice. Take the hands down, turn your toes forward, step back to Tadasana, mountain pose, stand tall. And open wide. Let's turn the toes to the right. We're coming into Virabhadrasana 2 by dropping the right knee over the heel, stacking the ribs over the hips, the head over the ribs, arms wide, gazing right. Visualizing your inner thighs getting longer, so reaching away from the hips. Then side angle stretch, Parsvakonasana, forearm to the thigh, left arm by the ear, and then the left leg gets super long as you lengthen the tailbone and lift through the abdomen. Inhale, come up, straighten your right knee, turn the toes all the way around to the left. Exhale, left knee right over the heel, ribs over the hips, head right over the ribs, looking left. Work the soles of the feet equally if possible. Pressing through the inner big toe mound, the outside pinky edge, the inner and the outer heel. Exhale, Parsvakonasana side angle. Push off that front leg, pull with your top arm, come up, turn the toes forward, walk the feet toward each other, step 2, Tadasana. Observe the sensations in your hips, in your groins, in the buttocks, even in the abdomen, through your legs, ground evenly through the feet. Step the feet wide, about your leg distance apart, toes turning inward slightly,
Hands on the hips. As you inhale, lift the ribs. As you exhale, turn the pelvis down. Head of the hip bones down, sitting bones up. Hands, fingertips come to the floor, and we're gonna look up. We're dropping the chest so that the thoracic spine lowers toward the back of your heart as you lift your sternum up and out. Now, observe the hips and the legs. Sitting bones high, inner legs pushing toward the outer leg, and then exhale, let the head come down. If that's not comfortable, stay with a flat back and keep opening your hips by lifting the sitting bones. Back up to a flat back. Let's bend the right knee and carry the hips over toward the heel. Inhale, hips to the center, and exhale, bend your left knee, stretching through that inner right leg. Now go back and forth. This one can be fun because you can play with the shape of your extended foot and even the grounded foot. You could keep the heel down or let the heel come up underneath the hips. You could let the toes come up or keep the toes down. So lots of variations, and it's really about how you want to stretch your hamstring and your inner thigh. So play with it and explore the best movement for your knees, ankles, hips, legs. And then we'll come back to the center and have your feet, your toes turn out a little bit as you lower into a deep squat. So notice the chest stays lifted as your hips descend down. Okay, and then we'll straighten the legs, hands to the hips, tailbone under, inhale, and come up. Walking your feet in, step 2, mountain pose. Now, let's see how this feels this time when we cross the right ankle over the knee and sit back a little bit into that invisible chair. Might feel a little more open than when we did it in the beginning. Thumbs can come into the sternum. Keep the belly lifting in and up so that you're not collapsing into your joints. And then push through the foot, come back up. Switch sides. Notice the breath and carry the breath to the hips. Inhale, come up, stand tall. Okay, if you are working tree pose, if you're kind of new to yoga and you're working on your balance in tree pose, then you're going to come into tree pose next. And you want to avoid having the foot on the inner knee, okay? So either the ankle, the calf, or the inner thigh. If you've been doing yoga a while, let's come into a different pose where we grab the ankle, we bring the outside edge of the hip up into the left hip crease and lower the knee down. So you're holding the right foot with the left hand. Right hand comes up. It's gonna reach behind the back. It might catch the forearm or the big toe, and we're gonna hinge forward. So if you're not doing this pose that I am demonstrating, then you're in tree pose. We're deepening the breath into all 3 parts of the lungs and into the front of the ribs, the side ribs, and the back of the ribs. If you're in a forward fold, inhale, look up halfway, and then exhale. and then inhale and come up. Let go of that toe. And then everybody come back to Tadasana. And if you're doing tree pose, then this time you're taking the left foot to the ankle or the calf, or picking it up and putting it on your inner thigh. Or you're grabbing hold of the ankle, kind of loosening up that hip. Take the outer foot to the crease of the upper right thigh and hip. You're reaching around with your left arm to grab the forearm or the big toe, and you exhale and hinge over. I end up grabbing my big toe when I'm about halfway. Releasing the head. Inhale, come up halfway. Exhale, ground into the foot. Inhale, come up. Or you're lowering that left foot from tree pose back to Tadasana. Stand tall. Open the feet wide, not quite your leg distance, but wider than your hips. And point your toes out now at a 45-degree angle toward the corners of your room. And then let's come into kind of a starfish where we open the arms, and then as you exhale, you're going to bring the palms down in front of the heart and bend the knees. Inhale and open, and exhale and hinge, bending the knees. Inhale, open, and exhale, come down. You can hold here or go a little bit lower, dropping your hips. I'm walking my feet in a little closer so that the outer elbow can touch the inner knee down in a deep squat. Now, this can be done with your hands on your inner thighs and your knees wide. Or you're going deeper, lowering the hips toward the floor. And then we're gonna come down and sit. So if you're here, you can just make your way down to the floor, however works for you. If you're in a squat, you might just sit right on down. Legs are gonna be out in front, and then we'll bend the right knee for Jani Shirsasana. So knee comes wide, sole of the foot to the inner thigh. Sit nice and tall, squaring your shoulders toward your front foot. If the hamstring is super tight, then when we fold forward, keep your hands back in line with your inner thigh and just work on rolling the pelvis over the head of that thigh bone. Then you'll keep a nice open chest, a nice long spine. If you have pretty open hamstrings, then you can reach for the foot, and then inhale, lift the sternum, and exhale, forward fold. When the pose gets deep like this, a lot is going on in the hips. So even though the mind and the body is kind of going forward, we want to take awareness back into the thigh of the bent leg first, and the inner thigh rolls back. So we keep dropping into that sit bone, and the inner thigh is like externally rotating, okay? Even though the left leg is extending and we're reaching through the big toe mound. So we're creating a little bit of a counteraction. Inhale as you look up, you exhale about halfway, and then inhale, sit tall, and then we'll straighten the right leg, bend the left, square the shoulders forward. Extended leg is like it's standing in Tadasana, active. And then if the hamstrings are tight, there's just a slight hinge forward. I'm talking like an inch, maybe 2, so that the pelvis will start to open. If you're flexible, you've been doing this a while, you
can grab that foot, come into the forward fold, continuing to roll your left inner thigh back. Externally rotate the thigh bone in the hip socket. Breathing into the hips. Inhale, coming up halfway. Exhale, inhale, sit tall. Extend the left leg forward. Bend both knees. So notice I catch my inner thigh right above the knee. When you do this, you are externally rotating that thigh, which is awesome. You want that to happen when you're opening the hips. So you can hold the inner thigh and help it draw back. This also creates space for the knee joint when you pull the flesh away from the back of the knee. Coming into Baddha Konasana, cobbler's pose, walk those heels in close to the hips and sit nice and tall. If the upper back wants to round, or the lower back, or the shoulders want to come up, walk your hands back behind the hips. This is such a good hip opener because you can push the heels together and externally rotate the thigh bones. So wherever you are, I would say walk the hands back for a moment and press the heels together and squeeze your buttocks and feel that sensation of the thighs externally rotating. You do it by pushing the heels together and squeezing the buttocks. That is a very different action than just having the soles of the feet together and pushing your knees down. Okay, that can overstretch tendons and ligaments, so you want some strength in the buttocks and in the feet pushing together. If you're used to sitting nice and tall here with an open chest, then grab the toes and then start to hinge forward with the head of your hip bones first. Then let the navel fold. Then the heart keeps reaching up and out so that the shoulders can roll down and back. And then where is the breath? Let it move up and down the spine, rising on the inhalation and descending on the exhalation. Then if you're forward bending here, observe if you're able to still squeeze your buttocks and push the heels together, or if all of that drops and just relaxes. You kind of want to do both off and on for just different effects. When we're toning the heels and the buttocks, we are lifting Mula Bandha, the root lock. And when we relax completely and let the torso fold, we're just stretching more, right? We're just kind of stretching the inner thighs and the hips. So you want a little bit of both. And inhale, come up. Take your hands to the knees and support the legs coming back together. Okay, then we're going to come into pigeon pose, or we're going to come into a figure 8 stretch on your back. So if you try pigeon, which is with the right knee forward first, the right ankle is close to the inner thigh, and notice this back leg is totally square, right? The hips are square, and what I mean is this is when they're not square. So this kind of rolls open, or you might come down and like this hip is so tight it can't come to the floor. So you could put a pillow there, or you could just completely come onto your back, which is better for a lot of people, and do this one where we cross the ankle past the knee, grab the hamstring, you lay back, and you can push your right elbow into your right knee, You can rock side to side. If that's not quite enough, you could hold the front of the shin. That's better for a lot of people if you're unable to square the hips and have your outer right thigh on the floor in pigeon pose. So choose what's going to be your pose here. And if you're in pigeon, we're going to exhale and fold, resting your forehead on something to soften or release the visceral body. Relaxing the nervous system as you breathe into the back body. Breathe into the hips. So where the breath goes, blood flows. So this is so great, just having the intention of visualizing the breath going into the areas of tension. We can bring more blood flow and circulation there, allowing what is once really gripping and full of tension to release and soften and let go. Inhale, and if you're in pigeon, look up and walk your hands back. If you're in pigeon, you're going to step into downward dog to switch sides. If you're on your back, you just naturally flip the left knee over the top of your right, or your left ankle over your right knee, and switch your stretch. If you're in pigeon, push into the fingertips to lift the spine in and up, and exhale as you release it down over that front leg. Relax the forehead. And deepen your breath. If you're in pigeon, inhale, look up, walk the hands back. We're going to all meet on our backs. So if you're already down there, just stay for a moment while the rest of us make our way down onto our backs. We're going to hold both knees with the hands, and we're going to just start to rock side to side, drawing little invisible circles with the knees. In other words, you're massaging the back of the pelvis. Then we'll take the knees together, have your arms open wide, and exhale, lower your knees to the right and turn your head and look left. Inhale through the center, exhale, knees left, turn your eyes and head and look to the right. And go back and forth, inhaling when you move through the center and exhaling when you twist. And then back to the center, we're going to grab the outside edges of the feet, if possible. If not possible, then grab your shins. Okay, and then we're kind of drawing the knees down in the direction of the armpits. And then gently rock side to side. This is a good massage for the kidneys as you feel the low back being supported by the floor and massaged by the floor. And then we'll let go, and either the knees are going to come back together and you're going to repeat this twisting side to side, or you're going to cross the knees over each other, crossing your legs, and maybe even wrapping the ankles, placing your feet on the floor, and if your right leg is on top, then the knees fold to the left. If your left knee's on top, you want your knees folding right. Inhale through the center and exhale to the other side, switching it up. Inhale back to the center, unwind the legs. We're going to lie flat just for a moment. So we're going to come up to a seated position after about a minute for a short meditation. So lie completely flat, have the palms open face up. Take a couple of nice, easy, deep breaths in through the nose and then out through the mouth. Observe sensation through the whole body, from the soles of the feet to the crown of the head. And we'll gently bend the knees. You're going to roll to one side. Use the support of your arm strength to help you come up to sit. Now you may want to sit on a chair, or you may want to come into a seated cross leg. So I'm going to walk you through the hip opener of a seated cross leg and even seated lotus Padmasana. So when you cross the legs, we're going to do it like we did in cobbler's pose. You're going to take your hand to the inner upper knee, right? The inner upper knee. And then as you bend the knee and the heel comes in, you want to pull this flesh away from the back of the knee and place the heel down right in front of the hips and slip that hand out. Take the other hand to the upper knee and fold that inner thigh back as you bring that heel in. There's so many variations here of how you can sit. You can have the ankles right in front of each other. You could stack the ankles and bring that top ankle on top of the other one. Obviously, you don't want the bones stacking each other. There's a little bit of an overlap. Okay. Or if you come into full Padmasana, lotus, you want to take, you're still holding that inner flesh and drawing the outside edge of the foot up into that hip crease. And then watch carefully here. This is the safest way to do this for your knee. When this knee drops to the floor, that's when you would pick up the other ankle and slide the outer foot to the inner thigh. And then you're sitting in lotus, Padmasana. Wherever you're sitting, let's have the palms face up. And if you're comfortable with the mudra, Anjali Mudra, you could take the forefinger and the thumb together, extending the other three fingers down. We're going to lengthen up through the back of the neck, so chin comes in and up, eye gaze drops, or close down the eyes. And breathe in that sense of potential, recreation, or creation itself. Breathing out and releasing anything that is unwanted or not needed. Behaviors, habits, kind of thought patterns. Breathing in that newness, a fresh start. Feel the ribs opening when you inhale,
Softening back as you exhale. Feel the floating ribs drawing up away from the head of the hip bones. Belly slightly toned. Face is soft. The chest is lifted. The heart is open. And there's this sense of gratitude for your yoga practice. You, as your own teacher, becoming more aware of your own limitations, restrictions, and moving through those, expanding beyond that, not just with the body, but also the mind, the emotions, more and more whole or complete in your practice as you bring the palms together in front of the heart, balancing right at the center. Trusting that all is as it should be. And giving thanks for the here and now. I honor the place in you where there is truth and light and peace. And when you are in that place in you and I am in that place in me, we are one. Namaste. And thank you guys for coming to the makeup class. I hope you had a nice practice. Hi, Tootie. Thanks for joining. And yeah, feel free to leave comments. Feel free to share. Feel free to make requests for future classes. And I hope you guys have a great day. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.